I apologize for the darkness. I am sitting outside. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I really felt that this needed to be said. And if you find value in this video, please like, subscribe, comment, share your experience with me. Let's heal each other. Let's heal the world. So this is what happens when one of you want more time together and the other wants space. You have the runner-chaser dynamic. It'll be like, he's not there for me. We don't spend, time together, even if you're around someone. And then the other person will be like, well, they're too needy, and I need space, and they feel suffocated. And it'll just go back and forth of, they just do whatever they want to do with no concern for me, kind of thing. And then it's like, you get afraid that sharing your feelings and thoughts will cause your partner to shut down or reject you, or, and over time, it just feels like an unsafe place, an unsafe relationship that creates distance between both parties. And the more we hold back our innermost feelings and experiences, the shallower the connection becomes. And then, the passion dries up, the boredom, the fighting, the apathy takes its place. And you feel rejected in the relationship, and then you feel an underlying anxiety with your partner. But then this anxiety actually creates the very thing you fear the most. It pushes people away. Where you're the other side and you feel smothered, and you'll jump in, but sooner or later you feel cornered and gasping for air. This is the anxious-avoidant relationship when two different fears meet. So it'll be like, one fears the loss of the other, and the other fears their loss of self. And then each partner is triggering each other's fears. And then one person, the anxious, will turn to anger and complaints and trigger the other for engulfment. Then they distance, triggers the fear of abandonment, and it's a cycle. And then they respond to each other with the very behavior that continues to trigger the fear. They are caught in a protective circle, each blaming the other for the problems. A lot of our fears stem from childhood experiences of being rejected and controlled. And they also come from the pain of being rejected as adults, or having lost ourselves in a relationship, or not knowing how to handle the pain. When our fears of being rejected or controlled or triggered, most of us immediately retreat to our learned controlling behaviors. If we fear rejection, we become pushy, clingy, or demanding in order to get the love we want. We may also become controlling, or then being overly nice and accommodating out of the belief that this will make our partner stay. And if we fear being controlled, we can shut down and criticize and withdraw or resist anything to put up a barrier between us and the other person. And of course, the moment we act out in controlling ways, our behavior may trigger our partner's fears of being rejected or controlled, and then he or she may then react in controlling ways as well. creating a vicious cycle and an unsafe relationship system. Once this happens, we start blaming the other. When the fears are activated, we focus on who is at fault or who started it, and then we perpetuate the fears, blaming another for our own reactive, unloving behavior. And then both people end up feeling bad, each believing that our pain is the result of the other's behavior. And we feel victimized and helpless and stuck and disconnected from our partner. And we desperately want our partner to see what they're doing, we think is causing our pain. And we think that if our partner only understands this, that they'll change. And we exhaust ourselves trying to figure out how to make them understand. And with so much push and pull, someone has to give. And it's easy to see that the fear of rejection creates much anxiety, while the fear of engulfment creates much resistance and avoidance. It's also easy to see that the anxiety of one partner coming from the fear of rejection and the resistance, avoidance of the other partner coming from the fear of engulfment create a circular system where each partner's fears are triggered by how the other deals with their fears. And the dual fears of losing the other and losing ourselves are the underlying causes for our unloving, reactive behavior. And these fears are deeply rooted. They cannot be healed or overcome by getting someone else's love. We must heal these fears within us before we can share love with each other. When we stop controlling and instead heal them, the relationship can heal. And until the anxiety partner develops their own worth and take emotional responsibility for their feelings, the person will continue to be a bottomless pit. No matter how much time and attention, it'll never be enough. On the other hand, if the anxiety partner does back off from pulling on the other one for time and attention, it's likely they'll stay resistant and emotionally distant. The avoidance fear of engulfment is not being caused by the other. It's being caused by not having to speak their truth and set limits against, their boundaries. And until they set loving limits and figure out what they do and don't want in a relationship, he'll still feel that somebody else is running the show and imposing on them. The avoidant has to voice their feelings instead of acting out and shutting down. Our fears of rejection or of being controlled are gradually healed as we develop our loving adult self, who's capable of managing the pain of rejection and loss, and then setting loving limits regarding losing ourselves. You have to practice like an inner bonding, a self-healing process that will allow you to take care of yourself, so you no longer fear abandonment or fear losing yourself in a relationship. And the more you practice the process, the stronger your loving adult becomes. A strong, connected adult is capable of defining your own sense of worth rather than needing others' approval to feel worthy, and not taking rejection, resistance, and emotional distance personally, while also speaking the truth about not wanting responsibility for another's feelings without resisting, attacking, or distancing. Also taking action on your own behalf to ensure against engulfment and suffocation, and sharing love instead of trying to get love or avoid pain. And there's no such thing as a relationship where you never feel rejected or lonely, heartbroken, or helplessness over the person or situation. And that's why it's so important to manage these feelings when they arise within you without creating conflict and distance in your relationships. You must heal the issues at the core of it all and discover an endless source of love already within you. You have to dissolve the bitterness and anger and resentment towards your partner and process things to feel at peace and secure. And then you feel so stuck in your relationship that sometimes you think it might be easier to start over with someone else. You keep having the same problems. No matter how much you try to talk about them, they persist. And maybe you've even tried to ignore them, hoping they'll go away. Meanwhile, the lack of connection between the two of you is painfully obvious. You don't feel close to each other, and you're definitely not excited about each other anymore. And keeping your relationship going has become trying and tedious work. And if you fight, things can get ugly. And then they can take stabs at your heart. Even when things are good between you, those painful words might linger within you like a dark cloud. And then perhaps your partner tries to make amends with you, but when you're still hurting, the last thing you want to do is be close or let them think you're okay with what happened. Maybe you've said more than a few things you'll regret, and you're well aware that you can't take them back, and yet in the heat of the moment, you become so enraged, and then later feel ashamed by your own lack of self-control. You don't feel like yourself in this relationship. You don't like who you've become, unfulfilled, depressed, anxious, angry, and maybe you feel guilty too. On the outside, it looks like you could have it all, and yet you could be still so unhappy. It's like you thought you had gotten it right with your partner, and things can be good, and then you're in crisis, and you feel so disconnected from them, you don't know how to move forward. But leaving can be a big mistake. You know, people get divorced, and it's like most 70% of marriages end in divorce now. It's like they say they've fallen out of love, and they believe it's the other person's fault, and they think they'll leave and find something better. But there's a little detail they're missing. They take themselves with them, and so do you. And no matter what the problems are in your current relationship, they will be in your future relationship too, even though you're with someone else. That's because you carry your issues from relationship to relationship. That means you keep repeating similar painful patterns, no matter who your partner is. And in other words, you'll never be truly at peace and happy in a relationship unless you recognize and heal your wounds first. And this one's posed much differently on me because I swapped. I used to be the avoidant, and now I'm the anxious. And it sucks. Because the reason people leave a marriage or a relationship only to feel defeated by the next one, and they keep picking new partners thinking that this one will make everything alright. And they'll usually start off with high hopes, only to eventually hit a wall and feel stuck yet again, because they never resolved their own issues in the first place. And when you have two people coming into a relationship expecting the other person to make everything alright, you have the recipe for dysfunction. When you're blind to your unhealed issues, you can only see blame. They'll make statements for the problems in a relationship squarely on the shoulders of the other person. But the reality is that when both people come into a relationship with unhealed issues, they both create painful relationship dynamics. That means that regardless of the problems in your relationship, both of you are creating the problems and keeping them alive. And each of you are playing a part in a finely orchestrated dance, as dysfunctional as it feels. It's like one may be like a tyrant and wield all the power and make all the decisions and minimize what the other partner wants. Meanwhile, the other partner feels dismissed and intimidated and taken for granted. This is a common scenario, is that this partner is contributing to the dynamic by not speaking up, by going along and suffering in silence. And when partners realize that they're both contributing to the problems, they can stop judging and blaming each other. Instead, they can move into the intention to start learning about exactly what is causing their issues in the first place. But it takes two people to make a relationship, and also to make it dysfunctional. But it can take one person to change it. And it's tempting to see how your partner is causing problems. You think things would be so much better if they would change. But if you're in a relationship that's not working, you have to examine your end of the system and commit to healing it, especially if you think most of the fault lies in your partner. Especially if you're blaming everything on your partner, because someone who's truly evolved beyond their wounding doesn't feel superior to their partner and isn't looking for deficits in them. And when you've uncovered and healed your own issues, you stop playing your part in the dynamic that exists within your relationship. You effectively interrupt the pattern by removing your dysfunctional part in it. When one person stops fighting, withdrawing, or resisting, there's nothing for the other to fight against, complain about, or resist. It's not always about fighting. Withdrawal and resistance are just as common in struggling. At this point, one of two things will happen. The painful problems in your relationship will resolve, or it will become evident that your partner isn't capable of creating the kind of healthy relationship you want. This is why you shouldn't leave a relationship until you've healed your part of the dysfunction. And once you heal your end, the relationship may heal. And if you don't take the full responsibility for your own healing, you'll simply go on and repeat similar patterns in the next one. If you're in one that's not working, it's, the fighting, financial problems, incompatible sex drives, anger, addictions, infidelity. It's not even because the couple misjudged each other at the beginning, but were driven by lust rather than compatibility, or because people just grow apart. And it sure may seem this way on the surface, but beneath each of these issues is one common issue that creates them all: a need for control. And everyone can say, I'm not controlling. But the control I'm talking about, and the one that sabotages so many, isn't the kind of control you might imagine. Control can be overt and obvious, like domineering, jealousy, demanding, and a bully. Or it can be covert and much harder to spot. This is a much more subtle form of control, and most people don't even realize they're doing it. While the aggressive forms are associated with having power over somebody, the passive forms of control are really misguided attempts to get love and feel safe. And first, all of us control. There is no blame in trying to control, and we all do this. We learned it when we were children, when we were too little for the big things we felt. No matter how great your parents were, you would have experienced a lot of pain when you were young, and most of us did. Heartbreak, loss, anger, disappointment, it happened, and we were too little to manage it. And these feelings scared us, and we tried whatever we could to feel better. And some of us rebelled, thinking that if we caused a fuss, we would get more attention from our parents. And some of us conformed, making as little fuss as possible in the hopes that this would buy us the love and comfort we needed. And either way, we were trying to control other people in order to feel loved and avoid pain. But back then, we just didn't have the tools to handle our emotions, and so we coped by learning other ways to get the love we craved. And these old ways don't serve us now. Problems happen in our adult relationships when we carry forward the control mechanisms we learned as children. Some people grew up and became possessive and jealous. If they keep close tabs on their partners and demand they spend all their time with them, they think they control their partner into staying with them or behaving in a way that makes them feel safe. And some of us, like myself, wanted to control whether or not people rejected us by becoming people pleasers, caretaking others in spite of losing ourselves. We felt it was safer to ignore our own needs if it meant we wouldn't get rejected. And others became overly accommodating. They think that if they don't make waves or speak up about what they want, people will want to love them and stay with them. And it may look agreeable on the outside, but it's still controlling behavior. It's being nice in order to get something in return. Still, others will withdraw, shut down, and withhold affection. They're so afraid of being engulfed in a relationship that they control by keeping their partner at bay. Anything that has an agenda attached to it, if I do this, he'll do that, as a form of control. And every time you're in the intention to control, you're actually trying to get love from someone else in order to feel safe. You've essentially handed over responsibility for your feelings. For example, you keep looking for your partner to prove their love to you in order for you to feel safe. You will always feel at the mercy of the other person. You are relying on someone else to make you feel good, rather than knowing you are lovable, and it will be okay no matter what anyone says or does. And this is very scary, precarious place to be. And another person, no matter how much they love you, can't fill you completely. And what's more, when you place responsibility for your feelings on someone else, it's an impossible burden to bear, and you end up pushing away the very love you want. And instead, you must learn to do this for yourself and find your own unending source of love within. Keep trying to manage the feelings by controlling others, but the basic truth is, you're responsible for your feelings, not them. Now back then, and still now, you can be completely oblivious to the fact that, excessive caretaking and overcompliance was not a selfless act of love. I didn't realize it was all attached to an agenda, and that was my need to feel needed. if I felt I was needed and indispensable, then I was lulled into feeling that I wouldn't get rejected, that I'd be safe. But that doesn't work. Meanwhile, all my doing and keeping me busy enough to avoid the uncomfortable feelings associated with thinking I was unwanted and unloved. And these were false beliefs I developed as a child, brought in a highly dysfunctional family. Yet, here they were, fully alive in my adult relationship. And they created even more problems. The more I attempted to control by caretaking and giving to get, the more resentful and taken for granted I felt. And gradually, not only did the relationship fall apart, but your health will deteriorate significantly. After many years of struggle, I've realized that I've been overcomplicating things for myself and placing impossible expectations on others. And now I'll flip-flop here now because my mood swings all over the place, so I'll switch. I think we'll all switch at some point. It's obvious all my efforts to feel better weren't working. They were making things worse. So then you go the other way. But the path to really go to is to stop looking outside yourself to anyone else, and you need to go straight to the source of it all, yourself. Turns out all you need to do is give yourself the permission to stop the caretaking, which would free up a lot of responsibility for my own feelings. And only then could I learn how to feel loved, wanted, and safe no matter who was around. What I learned in my mission is that when you take responsibility, you stop trying to control and instead learn to take loving care of yourself. That's when you can tune into your higher source of truth and stop blaming your partner for not giving you what you're not giving yourself. That's when you can truly heal, and that's when you discover the greatest love of all. It is possible to have a wonderful relationship, even if your relationship right now is far from that. Or even if you've never had a great relationship. We always have good reasons for our behavior, including all the ways you and your partner try to control each other. Relationships are really the PhD of personal growth. Like I've said before, they are our greatest learning tools. And when things get triggered, it does not mean that you're in the wrong relationship, but rather that it's time to heal the false beliefs that led to the self-abandonment and controlling behavior. And some people are very good at learning to take care of themselves when they're by themselves. But then when they find a partner, everything goes to pieces. Being in a relationship brings up everything within you that needs to be healed. So a relationship is the real test of whether or not you've moved beyond your core wounding issues. And then you'll be able to soothe your own feelings all by yourself, which means you'll be able to heal the roots of these feelings once and for all. And by doing so, you no longer need to engage in controlling behavior, and you essentially break your end of the dynamic within your relationship. No longer will you need to work so hard and feel defeated. You'll discover the incredible experience of really sharing love because you feel deeply at peace and secure within yourself. Couples in crisis are in a fruitless dynamic. Even though both people are trying to control the other to feel loved, they invariably push each other away. But if one person becomes aware of how they're trying to control and they heal their end of the dynamic, everything can change. Power struggles are replaced with compassion and understanding. Adversaries become allies. If there was once jealousy and hypervigilance, there's now a boundless sense of freedom and trust and security that makes the partners want to get closer. Where before there was an intent to blame and find fault, the couple now sees the higher good in each other. And if every decision felt like a negotiation and a lackluster compromise, the partners learn to rally together and create solutions that feel good to the both of them. When partners are no longer controlling to get love, they feel boundless love within, and they naturally want to share it. This is what you really want. This sense of overflowing love you've been trying to feel through attempts to control and go around in circles when there's a shortcut and it's right inside you. You just need the right tools to address your need for control at the source. Learn to soothe your own feelings and create space for love to flow within you so that you can truly share it with an intimate relationship. It's like the number one reason for relationship failure, and how to keep from repeating the same painful dynamics from one partner to another. And then often subtle ways, fear of rejection or fear of intimacy show up and create painful consequences. And how your partner's difficult behavior may be a cry for connection, even if it feels like the opposite to you. And why sharing your feelings over what your partner did often backfires. And exactly how to say what you need to without creating more tension. You have to know if you're in a needy state and you're pulling on your partner so that you feel okay. And why it's common to fall out of love with your partner even if you're with the right partner. How to know when you're being a caretaker or a caregiver. And there's a major difference. And it's one you need to know if you're trying to be a people pleaser. And how to tap into your own dependable source of love so that you're not pulling on your partner for this, since they can't always be there for you. And how to quickly deal with feelings of anxiety and depression, guilt, shame, anger, aloneness, or emptiness. And what to do in the heat of conflict to prevent matters from escalating and interrupt the stress response so that you don't fuel the fire. And how to find compassion for yourself and your partner and manage your heartache and loneliness in ways that bring inner peace, even if your partner is behaving unlovingly. And how to gauge to know the right time to try to talk to your partner about a delicate issue. If they've not been open and receptive, it's a waste of time to try. And what to do when you feel hurt by something they've said, and how to communicate about it in a way that won't cause your partner to become defensive or shut down. And to stop the silent treatment and why you need to stop doing it if you want a happy relationship. Because we all go back and forth. We all just try to gain the love we want in any way we can, and it's frustrating. And then figure out to know the right time to leave a relationship. Otherwise you just keep repeating the same negative problems. And how to know whether your needs are coming from a place of emotional dependency, which only leads to pain and more frustration. And how to take loving care of yourself in the face of another's intent to control. How to resolve seemingly unresolvable issues, and how much you should bend in order to reach a resolution, and how to lovingly disengage in order to prevent conflict from escalating, before things are said that are difficult to take back. When you don't speak your truth to your partner for fear of rejection, and how to speak up even when it's hard. How to set boundaries, and you need to be willing to implement with boundaries. And how to know if you're loving your partner in order to get something for yourself, and how to feel fulfilled rather than drained by giving. The root causes of abandonment wounds, and how to heal these within your relationship, and how to create a safe arena for both you and your partner to do this deep level of work you need to do to heal the wounds of the past and move into your personal power, and how to reconnect after a fight. By doing this, I believe it's the secret to keeping love and passion alive, even in the long term, so that you can have more laughter, more fun, more time to just be with each other and enjoy life as an adventure, because you're no longer wasting time and energy in control. And most of all, no longer having those nagging feelings that it's just too hard, and that you're gasping for air, and you just want to push the eject button. Instead, you feel so free to be yourself in the relationship that you have no need to run from it, and you feel truly at home when you know love is always with you, and you realize the most beautiful thing, that you are love, and so is your partner. And compassion and connection overflow as both of you always look for the highest good in each other and know there's no other place you'd rather be. All this, the anxious-avoidant relationship, is also the premise behind the twin flame dynamic. How you're supposed to learn and heal from each other. There's the runner and the chaser. Because even in cartoons like Tom and Jerry, one runs, one chases, vice versa. And you begin to think that's what relationships are like. Heal yourself, and then heal the anxious-avoidant relationship. And this has definitely been a big part of my shadow work goals with myself. Really taking a step back and having a fresh perspective of myself. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had these relationships. What's your experience? So, isn't that air conditioner coming on so annoying? Not much I can do about that though. Being in Florida in like 90-degree heat, I am not turning it off. So, thank you guys for watching.